On this edition of Around BCC, we look at how South Coast veterans can benefit from the programs at Bristol Community College. BCC receives a state grant to help it become more energy efficient. And we profile an alum who's also the coordinator of the college's fire science program. Welcome to Around BCC. I'm Keith Tebow. We are in November, a little over the halfway mark, believe it or not, in this fall 2012 semester at all BCC campuses. November, of course, is known for Veterans Day, which happens early in the month, on November 11th, of course, every year. And BCC has done a great job in recent times in trying to integrate veterans back to school and getting their education after they served on the battlefield either recently or even in the past. We're going to talk about BCC's Veteran Services today on the program. I have with me Joseph Cavallo. He is the Veterans Job Developer and also the Placement Coordinator for Veteran Services, and also student and veteran Joe Goulart. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Joe Cavallo, let me start with you. Talk a little bit about how BCC in general has been helping veterans get back to school or find a job after they get back from their service.
Well, one of the things that we've done, along with my colleague Michael Flanagan, who's the placement facilitator and enrollment facilitator for the Veterans Grant, and we've done optimal resume. Every veteran that we see who's a student here, we produce a resume for them, with them. We've sent out at least 4 or 5 emails a day to all the veterans here who are students, with job postings, with job fairs. There's actually a Veterans Job Fair coming up on November 14th in Taunton, sponsored by the State Department of Employment and Training. We've done a whole host of things. One of the things that we do as well is to facilitate some of the credits that veterans might get is do the transcripts, the military transcripts. We have each veteran either send away or on the computer get their military transcripts sent to BCC so that someone makes a decision on how many credits they can accrue from their military training, which kind of lessens the load and kind of facilitates the certificate or degree program earlier.
Right, so in some respects, their military experience may help them earning credits here at the college. Is that correct?
Depending on what their chosen field of study is, yes. Not in all cases, but in a lot they do get some credits.
Now, the current program that you work under is under a grant. The college has been involved with helping veterans for years, but how has this grant helped improve the connection of BCC with veterans and getting them back to school?
Well, we've done outreach. Actually, there's a new program called the Veterans Retraining Assistance Program, which is specifically targeted to vets between the ages of 35 and 60. That was part of a law that was passed last year and started to be implemented May 1st of this year. And that entails unemployed veterans, who, by the way, comprise about 60% of the unemployment rolls,
right.
And affords them the opportunity to get financial assistance for 12 months while they're pursuing a certificate or an associate's degree at a community college or a technical school.
Wow.
Since we got wind of it, probably around June, we've enrolled about 22 or 23 older veterans between the ages of 35 and 60, 9 or 10 of which are enrolled for this semester, and the others will be coming in in January, in the spring semester.
Wow.
So it's been a real boon to them. Obviously, if they've been out of work, they're older. We assist them, of course, because they're not always up to speed on the computer skills.
Right.
They're almost always entitled to financial aid. We assist them with that, a whole host of things. The Veterans Bonus through the state of Massachusetts as well. Some of the vets coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq get a $1,000 welcome home bonus. There was another additional bonus provided of $500 if you had a subsequent deployment. So if you went to Iraq in 2006,
Right.
and then in 2007 you had another deployment, didn't even have to be to Iraq or Afghanistan, the state of Massachusetts would provide you with an additional $500.
Wow.
And there's been at least 2 or 3 vets who weren't aware of that. I actually found that in an Associated Press article in the Boston Globe, and contacted the Treasurer Grossman's office, and we got the phone numbers and the assistance for them. The other thing that we've done is we provided every veteran, I think we have like 40 cities and towns that we were able to find out the veteran service officers for each
Right. In
community.
BCC service area.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, and even a little beyond,
Right.
Kingston, Plymouth,
Right.
Carver, for instance, and provided them with the names, the emails, the physical addresses, the hours of operation, so that veterans, if need be, need the services from their local veteran service officer, that's readily available to them.
And of course, you're talking with those officers all the time, I'm sure, to try to not only get the information to outreach to veterans, but hopefully that they're doing the same for BCC, with anyone that they may meet
Absolutely.
in their
Sure.
communities. So how many, you mentioned the number of students in this one older program, 35 to 60. How many other veterans that may be younger do you help?
Altogether, we have currently approximately 240 student veterans who attend BCC. That's at the 3 campuses.
Right.
The bulk certainly is here. There's 25 in Attleboro, and I think another 30, perhaps, or 35 at the New Bedford campus. And we've done outreach to those campuses.
Now, are there any outreach efforts in particular? You know, you work with the local veterans agents in the cities and towns, but are you also getting some students who may have just enrolled as a student, who may have been a veteran that may not have known of these services? Are they coming to you as well after the fact, maybe a little bit?
We wouldn't know unless they applied for veterans benefits, if they are a veteran or not. I mean, we have posters around which talk about the transitioning from the military to civilian life and to employment. However, if it's up to them if they want to seek us out. Now we have the contact information for all the vets who are students here and registered as veterans, and we send, like I said, we send on average at least 5 or 6 emails a day to all of those addresses. But if a veteran has not applied for any benefits through the college, then we wouldn't necessarily know.
But they can still come to you if they think they can get any benefit out of that.
Absolutely.
Great. Let me speak with Joe for a few minutes. Joe, talk a little bit about your military career and your educational career after the military, before you got back here to BCC.
Well, I spent 2 years with the Air Force and then 11 years with the Army. Served during the Gulf War, and pretty much was military police most of my career. I did earn a degree in culinary arts through the military, which I'm trying to get, as Joe has worked with me, to get those military credits transposed over into BCC. Which is something I never knew about until I spoke with Joe. So I mean, that's just one way that his office and him and Mike have helped me. I go through voc rehab through the VA for my funding, and I'm currently doing computer science. Started out at New England Tech and ended up transferring here because it was closer once New England Tech had moved further away into their new campus. Working for the government myself right now and doing a lot of computer work, the skills that I'm learning here is just helping my job where I am now.
Let me ask you, when you said you were at New England Tech for a while, did you know of any of these veterans benefits when you were there, or was it a lot more apparent for you when you came here, the benefits that are for veterans for them to come back to school?
I was amazed at the benefits here through Joe and Mike and even Beth and Robin Gallant. They're all work with the veterans either financially or some type of career services. New England Tech does have basically the same outreach program. When I got here, I guess the biggest thing I can say is they're not more or less a person you can rely on for services, which they do 100%. But the veteran as a whole, and I'll speak for myself, and I know there's some veterans in the school that feel the same way, sometimes you need that person just to go and talk to, and you can't talk to your fellow students because they haven't been there, they haven't lived through it, they don't know what you've seen or been involved with. Sometimes walking into Joe and Mike's office just to sit down and talk is a relieving and satisfying moment that puts you back on track and mindset going back into class. You know, so they're not only support staff and veterans coordinators, I consider them friends. And that's very important to any veteran out here in the school right now.
You also have the opportunity, Joe, to speak to other potential veterans that may not know about what either BCC has to offer or what the government has to offer in terms of educational opportunities.
On that note, absolutely. Joe knows and Mike knows I'm also a Department of Disabled Veterans Service Officer for Fall River, and I am constantly going to returning units, National Guard or Reserve, that are coming back from Iraq or Afghanistan, helping them with any of them that might have medical issues, telling them the school benefits that they can gain through the DAV and or the VA, and relaying that information to them, and hopefully they'll bring them into the school as potential new students using the VA or DAV programs, which will also run right through Joe and Mike's office at the same time.
Joe Cavallo, you mentioned the opportunity of outreaching to veterans agents in BCC service area. What other ways are you trying to get the word out? Hopefully this will help, but what other ways are you trying to get the word out that, hey, you know, I'm sure there's so many more veterans out there that have no idea that they can get back to school, get some help in doing so. So I guess what other ways are you trying to get the word out?
Well, we had articles in the newspapers, in the local media. We've tried to hook up with American Legion, VFW posts, the Bristol County Veterans Association, which is a wonderful organization over on Pine Street. Those types of things. And also for the VRAP program, the older vets unemployed, all of the local one-stop centers, I was in touch with them about this program because they would be more in touch with unemployed vets, being the unemployment office, as we used to call it. We actually have received, I would say, a good 10 of the fellows and gals that we have in the VRAP program came out of the outreach efforts to the one-stop centers, Fall River, New Bedford, Taunton, and those areas. So that's one of the ways we've reached out. In terms of even engaging more students who are vets here at the college, we started a vets club, which has had about 3 or 4 meetings so far.
Oh, great.
Been well attended. They've gotten service organizations wanting to get involved. We have a dedication ceremony coming up on the 8th of November at the flag raising. We're going to dedicate a bench to past, present, and future BCC students who are veterans as well.
So that's good. Let me just ask you, Joe, one other part. You know, half of your job title is job developer. We all know it's a very difficult economy, people finding jobs, but are you finding that a lot of the skills that some of the veterans have, even with their military experience, may give them a leg up in getting a job if they only have that educational piece to go along with it?
Oh, sure, because the kind of skills that they bring from their service in the military, the leadership, problem solving, they tend to be a little older,
right,
on average. Those kinds of things are really beneficial. The other thing too is when I reach out to employers, I have a listing of which vets are majoring in what programs. So we try to streamline it, focus. For instance, last semester there were probably 30 vets who are in criminal justice programs.
right.
So when we had a Veterans Job Fair in April, we invited the New Bedford, Fall River, Somerset, Westport police departments to come, and they've been now made aware of the civil service exam coming up for vets,
Right.
If they missed the last one. A city like New Bedford just got a COPS grant, which means that whoever they hire from a civil service list, veterans preference takes preference. So we're hoping that some of the students that are here now in the criminal justice program who are taking the civil service may in fact be hired by the New Bedford Police Department in the future.
If anyone has any questions, or maybe a veteran watching who may be interested in coming back to school, how can they get in touch with your office?
Oh, they should call us. It's 508-678-2811, which is the main number for the college, and my extension is 3881. And Michael Flanagan's extension is 3883.
Simple enough. Joe Cavallo, Joseph Goulart, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate all the best. We appreciate your support and your time here today.
You're welcome, and thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
We'll have more of Around BCC right after this. Welcome back. Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick announced the appointment of South Coast businessman Fernando Garcia as the chair of the BCC Board of Trustees. The appointment was made through a provision in the FY 2013 state budget, giving the governor the authority to appoint the chair of the board at each community college. Garcia replaces Chair Jim Grady, who will continue to serve on the board. BCC's commitment to becoming more energy independent took a positive turn last month, thanks to a grant from the state of Massachusetts. State environmental officials came to BCC last month to announce the awarding of grant money to 3 Massachusetts Community College to invest in clean energy projects at their institutions. BCC received the largest grant, $600,000, to offset costs for the installation of a 900-kilowatt wind turbine at the Fall River campus. Richard Sullivan, Secretary of Energy and Environmental Affairs, says the community colleges are doing their fair share in making the Commonwealth more energy efficient.
Before the governor took office, there was some 100 kilowatts of solar that had been deployed in the Commonwealth at its community colleges. Today there are over 4 megawatts of solar. There was little over 600 kilowatts of wind energy. Today there is over 11 megawatts. And this mirrors what's happening in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The governor challenged us to deploy 250 megawatts of solar by 2017. We are well on our way to meeting that goal. The governor challenged us to deploy 2,000 megawatts of wind by the year 2020, and we are on our way to meet that goal. We have become more energy efficient as a Commonwealth, and we will continue to become more energy efficient as our Commonwealth, and your leadership will show that as well.
Once complete, the wind turbine is expected to save BCC more than $218,000 a year in energy costs. The BCC Fitness Center, which is available free of charge to students, faculty, staff, and alumni, has been in existence for over 20 years at the Fall River campus. But for the first time this past summer, it underwent some well-deserved renovations. Over the years, the BCC Fitness Center has received new equipment to keep up with the times, but the space had never been renovated until this past summer. Fitness Center Director Diane Hamill says the space can now be compared to those at advanced commercial gyms.
The main renovation that I'm particularly pleased with is the flooring. We had old carpeting on both levels of the fitness center. The upper level had carpet that was here for about 20 years with a pad underneath it. Basically, all of the carpeting was taken out throughout the center and replaced with state-of-the-art flooring. So you'll see a rubberized floor in the downstairs area where all the equipment is. So anywhere you see equipment, you'll have rubberized flooring underneath it. And then our group exercise area has a brand new vinyl floor that also has a bit of a cushion underneath it, so it's very forgiving for our group exercise classes, the Zumba, the yoga classes, and things like that. And it looks really nice too.
Along with the new flooring, the fitness center also has improved lighting, new lockers, and a fresh coat of paint. The college's engineering department is quickly creating a fall tradition by once again sponsoring the duct tape and cardboard boat races held on the pond at the Fall River campus. In its third year, nearly a dozen participants took part in the now annual duct tape and cardboard boat races sponsored by the BCC Engineering Department. As the title suggests, vessels in the race can only be comprised of cardboard, plastic garbage bags, and duct tape. Teams are paired in heats, with the boat returning to the coast with the best time declared the winner. Students Nina Kenyon and Eric Saichampanakan took home this year's title by building a sleek vessel called the Silver Bullet.
Well, I wanted it to be strong and stable in the water. That's what I was thinking about, stability. And, you know, I kind of just worked through my intuition.
Megan Abella Bowen, advisor to the college's engineering club, says the races are a great team-building exercise for students, faculty, and staff.
What it is it really is a great way to draw as many clubs in and students from across the whole campus, and I think that's what we like about this particular competition. And then it does really pull in our engineering students. We like to do it in the fall because we announce it right as the first day of classes start, and it's a way to truly try to draw the students in and say, hey, get involved in something that's fun, and it can be as intricate and well designed as you like, or it can be as poorly designed and quickly made as you like, but get involved.
The editor of this program was a member of a team which took part in building a boat for the race. Well, how did they make out? Well, the boat did win the award for most creative. Other than that, he'll be keeping his day job. The 2012 soccer season is over, and it was a rebuilding year for the men and Lady Bees. The men finished the 2012 campaign at 4-12, while the women ended up at 0-11-1. In other athletic news, the men's and women's basketball squads begin their regular season later on this month. Our profile segment this month ties together an alum who is also the program director of the BCC Fire Science Program.
Hi, I'm Fire Chief Stephen Ravad, BCC class of 1974. I grew up in the north end of Fall River, actually about 3 miles from here, and I got interested in being a firefighter when I was actually in 5th grade. My dad was a firefighter in the city of Fall River, where he spent 34 years. I would visit my dad at the fire station every opportunity that I had, and I'd always be looking at the trucks and be totally amazed at how they operated and wanted to learn how that all worked. And that was part of my decision. Even in high school, I knew that I wanted to be a firefighter, and I knew I had to do certain things with my education to become a firefighter, and I knew that to open those doors by coming to Bristol Community College, those doors would be open. Formal education in the fire service in the early 70s was basically non-existent. And to come to a college and take a degree program in fire science, the fire science classes were only offered at night. And the reason they were offered at night because they catered to the people who were already firefighters. They weren't catering to people who were intending on being firefighters. So in 1972, there were 3 of us in my first class of day students, if you will. And we took all our gen ed studies during the day, and at night we would take our fire science classes. And we'd take them with there'd be all firefighters in the class except for maybe 2 or 3 civilians, if you would. When I came to Bristol Community College, then District Fire Chief Louis Shea from the city of Fall River, I was in the first EMT class here at Bristol Community College, and that was relatively new. Being a registered emergency medical technician wasn't required back there in 1972 by the state. All you need to do was have a valid driver's license and know how to drive a vehicle. And we had 1 person on an ambulance. So I took the program here with Chief Shea, and halfway through the program, he asked me to come visit him at the Globe Fire Station where he was working out of one night, and I couldn't understand why he wanted to speak to me. But he told me of this plan that he had to incorporate the ambulance service in the City of Fall River Fire Department, and asked me if I'd be interested in working with him on that. And becoming as I became an EMT, would I be interested in working for the City of Fall River on an ambulance? And that's where I began my career. I graduated from BCC in 1974, that June. And by January of 1975, I had been hired by the City of Fall River as an emergency medical technician, working on one of the first city-run ambulances that the fire department sponsored. And it was because of my affiliation with Bristol Community College. He was one of my instructors. He saw that I had some potential. He knew I wanted to become a firefighter. He laid that career path out for me, and it worked. And it's the same career path I lay out now for my students to come before me as an advisor. I tell them they need to become an emergency medical technician and move on to become a paramedic after that, quite frankly. But we use pretty much the same template, and it works. After I left here, I graduated in 74. In 75, I began my career in the Fall River Fire Department. And that same year, I began pursuing my baccalaureate degree at Providence College in fire science. I didn't go full-time. I took 1 or 2 courses a semester, and I finished that up in 1982. But after spending approximately 2.5 years at the Fall River Fire Department, there was a position open in the Somerset Fire Department for a firefighter EMT. I had my degree. I was working towards my bachelor's degree. I had spent some time in the city of Fall River and working on one of the busier rescue companies, the ambulances, if you will, in the city of Fall River, and got a lot of experience, applied for the job in Somerset, and was appointed in Somerset in 1977, where I spent the rest of my career. I worked my way up the ranks there to lieutenant. I worked as a training officer, a little bit of work as a shift commander. And then in 1988, an opportunity came open to become the fire chief in Somerset. I applied for the job, and I received the position and stayed there from 1988 as the fire chief till 2008. So 20 years as a fire chief, 34-year career in total. It was back in 1990, and the fire chief from Fall River, Fire Chief Louis Shea, who I used to be a student of his, now I was a fire chief with him. I was serving with him. It was quite an honor for me to serve with him as a fire chief, quite frankly. And at that young age, I always looked up to him. He was one of my mentors in my career. And he called me one day and he asked me to help him develop a program on leadership and command here. And so I worked with him for about a year on that. Him and I developed that program, and then we were going to teach it together. And all along he knew he was going to assign me that teaching job. He wasn't going to teach it with me, but I committed to teaching half of it. And as we went along, when it came time to teach the class, he said he didn't have the time to do it, and he asked me to do it, and I started teaching at that point. So I started off teaching leadership and command here. And unfortunately, he got ill and subsequently passed, and I applied for his position as the program director back in, might have been 92 at that time, and I received that and have been doing it ever since. I try to get out to meet with the various firefighters. I go to the firehouses and throughout Bristol County. I talk to them about the fire science program at Bristol Community College. I try to get to some of the high schools and talk to the students about Bristol Community College. For the firefighters, I tell them, it's an asset for them to come here and earn their degree in fire science. Number one, if they're taking a promotional exam, they get credits. They get points for earning their degree. And that's a great way of getting an advantage on someone taking a promotional exam. Also, for my students coming in, I tell them it's a great tool to have in their pocket that they have a degree in fire science already. I knew as a fire chief, when I interviewed applicants, and they showed me that they had a degree in fire science, it was fantastic. They had an edge over everybody else. They had a leg up, if you will. And the education they get here at Bristol Community College is second to none. We've got some of the best fire instructors in the area here. I've got a fire instructor from Fall River Fire Department, from Acushnet Fire Department, from Attleboro, North Attleboro Fire Department, and we've got a mix of good leaders here teaching the courses.
That's all for Around BCC this month. We leave you with a look at how diverse the BCC college community really is, with scenes of last month's International Map Day celebration. I'm Keith Tebow. Thanks for watching.
My name is Shabazz Khan. I'm from Pakistan. I share the position of the Vice President of the International Club with Jose Bhutan. I'm here to thank you so much for coming to the World Map Day dedication.